So I'm going to talk about the mindset that you need to delegate properly. So if you're a solo operator and you're in the real estate niche, that could be house flipping, house wholesaling, land flipping, anything like that, this channel is definitely for you. Most of what I cover is setting like processes and setting up like SOPs into your company, and then hiring virtual assistants, whether that's one or two, or if you're needing a team. And so that's what this channel is for. So when it comes to the mindset that you need for delegating, the thing that I've found that is the most useful for me is just having humility. I just cannot stress that enough. Like remembering that all of these people that you're interacting with, these virtual assistants, freelancers that you're hiring, like they really are just everyday people. And so many people, when they have never had a virtual assistant before, they almost think that these people are going to be robotic. And that is not the case. Now, since this video covers mindset, we're going to skip past all of the attracting and like getting them hired. So we're going to skip past all of that. So we're just kind of talking about the mindset that you need in order to like give them the task to do and stuff like that. And then what it's like to be working with these people. And I would just stress that you're always trying to think about what does this person that I've hired, what do they want and what do they need? Like what's their passions, what's their desires? And so the right way that works for me when I'm delegating work to them is, I always want to do the basics, which is going to be like making sure that the communication is really clear. I want to make sure that I onboard them and then give them the proper training. That is a huge thing, because when you can onboard someone properly and then you train them properly, and you don't expect them to train in like 1 or 2 hours, you actually give them the right amount of time, and that's going to be different for every task. So like one of my rules for that is so if it's a complicated task, sometimes I might give them an entire week, so 40 hours if they're full-time. And then that allows them to go through the training at that kind of pace. And then I might tell them, hey, in week 2, I want to see if you can start performing the task. And this is for something more difficult. This would not be something that's super easy, like data scrubbing, for instance. Some of those tasks you might can train someone in the matter of hours, like maybe an 8-hour day or maybe 2 8-hour days, and they're kind of up to speed. But no matter what, it's important to me to be realistic on that, because let's face it, like if you are trying to cut corners and penny pinch on something like how many hours that these people are given to train, you definitely should not be hiring a virtual assistant. You should already be making money, and that is not your problem right now. You know how to make the money. This is now trying to free up your time, and you can now afford to get these tasks hired out and done. Having humility, knowing where they are at in their life, and then trying to make sure that you're a good fit for them, making sure that the communication is always clear. I always make sure that I ask my virtual assistants, doesn't matter if they're senior or junior in their role, doesn't matter anything to me. It just matters that I'm talking to them. I'm making sure if they need something, like I'm getting that for them. So let me think. So it was last night. I actually allow all of my virtual assistants to work any days of the week that they want, and I also allow them to pick the times that they want. So I'm definitely not claiming that what I'm doing is always right for everyone, but I had someone and they weren't quite clear on what they were needing to do, because I have actually switched some of them and given them new tasks to do, even though they've been with me for a little bit. And so she was having trouble just with like role and task clarity. And so I hopped on a call with her last night, and I just wanted to make sure that she was good to go. And the reason that was so important to me was because I know that when you have a virtual assistant, regardless of role or task, if they don't have that clarity, they don't have a good work-life balance, because they're stressing that they don't know what they're doing. they're stressing that they're not doing a good job because, again, they just don't have clarity. So just like make sure that you're taking stuff like that into account, and you're always just trying to be a person yourself, and then also looking at them and seeing, okay, what's their day-to-day life like right now doing these tasks. And so I always offer them help. I'll just flat out ask them, like, hey, is there anything that you need from me? And a lot of times, they'll always say no. And it's like, well, if you can think of anything, whether that's like software, if you need more time with me, like you name it, like I will help them get that, just because it improves their work-life balance. And that is actually, for me, what I have been able to, it like really magnifies what you can get done, because again, they like you. They don't want to disappoint you and stuff. When you're treating them really great, my goal is actually to treat them better than they've ever been treated before. So I don't want to micromanage them. I want them to have the freedom of of work, because all I care about is the result. So provided that they get me the end result, I don't mind how they get there. So I don't even do the whole software monitoring thing. And in fact, from what I've seen, from my experience, when you start doing things like computer monitoring, to where they pay for their own computer, but then you have them start putting on there that computer monitoring software, it's to check their productivity with screenshots and things. I think as soon as you start doing that, your management style has to change. So I would rather lead more than I manage. And if you listen to the really famous people that have talked about managing and leadership, and I don't necessarily mean book authors, like I absolutely love John Maxwell's work. Like I've read multiples of his books. I've watched a lot of his videos on YouTube. However, when you listen to people like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, people like that, who have actually went from nothing and then had to start building out teams, and then they had to hire team members just to hire more team members when they were in their early scaling days. Steve Jobs talks about, really great people don't need to be managed. They just need to be led, and that's really it. And so to me, it's super important to hire the right person, and then to trust in that decision, at least until I've given it enough time to run its course, to make sure, hey, is this person who I really thought they were? Are they able to perform the task and the job up to what I was expecting or beyond? So I always try to keep those things in mind. It's important to me, treat them like a person, and when you treat them better than they've ever been treated, the amount of work that they're going to do for you is amazing. And then it becomes important to pay them correctly. So you already want to be paying to where you're at least really competitive, or you want to pay more than anybody else is paying. Because when you start doing that, from what I've experienced, that's when the better people will start applying. So you're paying more, because A players always know they're worth a lot. And that's because when they're in the trenches of their work, they see what someone who doesn't perform their job, they see that person and they know what it looks like. And then they can get resentful that you've got someone in there that's not pulling their own weight. And then sometimes the A player is paid the exact same, or sometimes even less, because, in the corporate world, like I've got a couple people on my team that came from the corporate world, and they actually talked about that. Like, it doesn't matter how well you perform, the pay is the exact same. And sometimes you can have new people come on board that actually are better than, the others who are already on the team, but they make less just because they are more junior. And so I always want to avoid those situations. So always try to be trusting. That's at least worked really great for me. And then show them how you're different, and that's going to be in everyday communication. So the things that I always want to avoid is going to be things like micromanagement. And from what I've experienced, people are appreciative when I'm trusting and I treat them like they are great people. So the corporate world, it tends to punish really great people because it doesn't give them, any kind of trust, and it doesn't allow them to be treated differently when they're great. So for me, it's important to just like make sure that like how I want to treat people, just make sure that now I got to get rid of the bad people, and then now I can treat everybody the same, which was with a lot of trust, and I can just look at their work to make sure that it's all on point with what my expectations are. And expectations are really easy to manage when you can lay that out clearly in the trainings. And then after the trainings is what I like to do is I like to meet everybody one-on-one and give them, whether that's one meeting or even multiple meetings if it's necessary. And then I make sure to explain out, you should be able to, because like in our onboarding documents, I actually explain out in advance, you have this long to watch the trainings, and then communicate to me and let me know when you're done watching it, and that's when we'll set up the one-on-ones. And then after the one-on-one, then I make sure to work out timelines of, well, how long now do you think it would take for you to complete this first task? And then we hop back on another one-on-one meeting, and then we'll review your work together and then just see where you're at. And then from there, they can explain to me what they did. And then all we got to do is just kind of talk it out if they do need to improve something. And then it's no big deal. We can do that on the fly, and then they can correct it on their own time and then hop back on a meeting with me. So the types of mindset that is just super important is always being a humble person. Just try to be a great human being, because I think so many people, this is my own personal experience, when I've seen virtual assistants have a negative experience, or when I've talked to business owners that have a negative experience, it seems that the onboarding, the training, and the clear communication is what is always lacking in the bad experiences and things like that. So again, it just goes back to talking to them, offering them help and stuff like that. On the negative stuff, I'm sure that there is a very long list of like the negative topics and stuff, but that's, as long as you're always trying to be a human being, you can usually get that other stuff right. So I try to adopt the mindset of working towards being a great leader. I think being a great leader is actually really difficult, and it is not at all that the things required of you is difficult, but it's that as business owners, like I'm stressed all the time, and most business owners are, because of how many decisions you're trying to make, and then you're trying to always maintain profitability, deciding like new markets to go to in your marketing and all that day-to-day type of grind stuff. So, and especially with anybody who's doing this solo, those are like the biggest problems is, you're fighting fires. And sometimes when you're too down in the trenches, when things are burning down around you, it is so easy to not be a leader in those moments, because being a leader does require you to take a step back when things are going bad, take a deep breath, just relax a little bit, and then you can have a conversation with your team. And as a leader, it's your job to be positive. Now, I'm always truthful and open with my team. However, I do want to always be the one that's positive. It's like my team doesn't need to know when it's super bad. We just need to know, like, as a group, that everything's going to be okay and we're going to make it through. Virtually everyone's experienced something going wrong with the deal. Like the contractors were more than you thought they were going to be. It runs the gamut. Like there was a legal issue, you couldn't close on a property like you thought because something came up in the title process. So as the leader, one of the things that makes you different is you've got to be able to take that stress and then try to get to a place where you can relax with it so that your team is not bearing down on that, because your team needs to be positive. That is especially true with sales teams. In fact, there's been a ton of people talk about this as well. If you shouldn't ever have the operations of the business go in and start talking to the sales department and bringing them down. The sales department has to always be uplifting, and they just don't want to talk about the problems. Like, that needs to go to not the individual salespeople, but the leaders over the salespeople. If something needs to be changed with scripts and things, in order to stop having the operations be in disarray, like that happens, to where the sales reps will overpromise on the phone to get the people to close on a deal. But then when they actually move into the business to where now all of the workers are having to fulfill on those exaggerated promises that the sales rep closed the person on. So, then they've got to reel them back. However, during the day-to-day, the salespeople have to be very positive. Well, that's also true with people who are data analysts, data scrubbers, data entry. It could be like your front desk person, but it's just virtual. They need to be in a positive mental state. One of the things that is with my team is they're always asking, hey, are we doing deals right now in my real estate company? And a lot of times, some of these deals, especially the big ones, they take a lot of time to run through. And so it's my job to always explain, hey, yes, we're doing deals. It's slow right now, but that's because we've got a couple in the pipeline. And sometimes we have to move properties through probate, maybe through quiet title, something like that. There could be like a legal issue that pops up. And some of these things might take 3 months. And so I've got to be there and positive for the team, so that way they don't lose hope, basically. Stuff like that. That's what's helped me a ton. And I make sure to actually try to have real conversations with my assistants and just ask them things like, what are like the good things about us here? Is there anything that we need to improve on? And when you're trying already and you're making it a point to be better than anywhere that they've ever had a job experience, they're going to notice that. And some of them, they really don't have a whole lot to add because we're already doing so many things right. They're oftentimes like, no, this is like, I like it here. I enjoy this, because they're in an environment where they feel appreciated. And part of me making them feel appreciated is actually not doing the computer tracking, the screen captures of their computer, stuff like that. Showing them trust in things already makes them feel appreciated. And plus, I'm always, telling them, hey, thank you, I appreciate you. And then, is there anything else that you need? Stuff like that. And then also, if they ever need a meeting, kind of like my meeting last night to help this young woman, that was over an hour and 20 minutes. And that was like, I was perfectly fine with it. My family was already in bed. So it didn't bother me at all to do that. I would do it again in a heartbeat. So, because a lot of times, once your team members are up and going, there's times to where I might not have a meeting with a team member for a very long period of time. It's just if they request it, because so many things can be handled by chat. And then as the leader, sometimes I'm just like, well, let me hop on and do a video call with you. And then that'll get you squared away, because I can share my screen and help them with that. So I'm kind of curious I'm thinking about some other negative stuff that I hear of. I think one of them is going to be like unrealistic expectations, unrealistic goals that you're expecting of these people. It is different too if you've hired someone who's already been doing that thing for like 5 years. That's drastically different than you're trying to save money. So you're trying to find someone who's brand new, and then you're trying to train them on that task. I think if you're trying to expect someone who's never done something and then trying to get them to train in like 4 hours or 8 hours to do a task, and if like, hey, that's not realistic, let them know ahead of time. And two, it'll put them at ease, because if you don't give people expectations, is what they'll do is they'll worry all throughout the day. Like, hey, am I doing this at the rate that I'm supposed to do? So that's a huge one for me. That's why it's so important to give them that work-life balance. So it's my job to reduce the stress of the team. So remain positive, reduce their stress by setting clear expectations with them, and they need to be reasonable. And I'll even ask them too. And I've even done this when I'm onboarding them on the onboarding call. I'll actually say, hey, do you think you could watch 8 hours of videos in 2 days' time and then take a few notes? And if they're like, I don't know, I'll just literally tell them, hey, no big deal. If you need another day to train on that, that's cool. Go ahead and take another day to train on it. And then I also make sure, so now they've got 3 days to go through training. I also allow them to know, hey, now after your 3 days worth of training, when you hop in and you start to complete the task, you can still have all the training videos up as you're going through it. But I want them to go through the training once just in order to know, okay, this is the overview. Now I understand the point in this role, because it's all about the results for me. So I want them to know what the end result is. Okay? So then from there, I give them everything that they need to do it. And then if they need more time, I will give them more time. And I want to be clear on that. So that's a huge one. And then trying to not give them vague communications. So I chat with my team a lot. That's what everybody does. And when you're chatting with them, you still want to make sure that you're not being vague. And if you do have to give them something to do that you've not done, because every now and then I do give my team tasks to complete that I haven't done, I still try to give them direction and then give them resources, whether that's video or whatever is needed. Because sometimes you can even buy them a course in order to up-level their skills. And then, I mean, that helps the company. It's just a simple investment into them and then paying them per hour to complete it. But it is like well worth it for me to do stuff like that. So even if I've not done it, I still want to show them, hey, this is what great looks like. And this is where you can learn how they did that. And because sometimes some things are very difficult to actually chat out. So then that's where sending them the attachments and videos to watch really helps. And then also hopping on a Zoom to help them if that's necessary. Trying to be open-minded is something that I'm always working on and practicing, because especially with our data analyst, I kind of will show them like, hey, this is what I'm really looking for, the end result to be, but I have no idea the best way to get there. So I'll give recommendations of, hey, I think this is something that could help you. However, if you know of an easier way, I'm totally open to that. And I think that has been something that has made our team more successful, is because sometimes they'll find ways of solving problems that it's like I didn't know existed, especially when it comes to things like Excel. Their skills are so superior to any kind of skills that I have at something very technical like that, because I really don't have the time to go and learn Excel. And plus it would be a waste, because everyone on my team has had to go through that in college. So they're all very experienced in that. And like, I have not went to college. Technically, I'm a college dropout. So I never claim to know that stuff better than my team. In fact, I even tell my team members openly, they're way smarter than me at anything technical like that. It's my job to do the overview of things and then to show everybody and then keep everybody on task, and then we work towards a goal. So I think that has been like the things that has worked really great for me. I really hope that this has helped you. And if there's something else that you want me to talk about, throw it in the comment section. I try to read a lot of those. Also, if you're a solo operator and you're on the real estate niche, regardless, house flipper, house wholesaler, land flipper, and you're wanting to see, from start to finish of what it takes to hire, whether that's 1 or 2 virtual assistants or a small team to do things, could be anything from, there's cold calling, there's all kinds of data scrubbing. There's also like administrative work. They could do bookkeeping. I am full transparency. I am not a recruiter. I work with solo operators to actually learn all this stuff and implement it into their company. If you want to go and see what it's like from start to finish, from how you create SOPs and then map out processes in your company. So that way you can actually attract and find like A players to bring into your business. And then you want to see that entire process. Check out the video that's in the description here. It's just a simple YouTube video. It's like an hour long or maybe even more. And it really lays out everything from start to finish. So you can actually like put the pieces together and then you can see what this is all about. And I'm telling you, it is something that for me was a game changer in my company. So I hope I can help you. I wish you the best and take care.